and moving today. This is going to be my bookshelf tour. As you can see here, I have a lovely bookshelf. I'm going to take you through what books I have. I recently took out all my books and divided them into piles and started to organize them to stick in the shelf. They're kind of arranged in a loose order, kind of. I can't promise that they're done fantastically, but let's have a look at my books. First, I'm gonna take you through my little bookshelf, and this is what I'm calling my Cassandra Clare shelf. So if you're looking closely, you will see that these are all Cassandra Clare books. This whole little bookshelf is dedicated to her. So let's start at the top and I'll explain. This is the Last Hours series that she recently finished. I have so many of her books. We have 2 copies up here of Chain of Thorns. One is mine and it is signed, and one is my boyfriend's and it is also signed. Beside the Last Hours series, we have 2 more Cassandra Clares. They are Swordcatcher, which is her newest book. Once again, we have 2, one for me, one for my boyfriend, and they are both also signed. So a lot of signed books up here. I'm pretty sure all the books on this top line are signed by Cassandra Clare. So they warrant a whole beautiful shelf just to them. Next, we have kind of weirder copies. So I'll take this out of the way. So the first here I have is a special edition of Clockwork Angel. I think this is the Waterstones edition. So, and it has all of these flower cards of the characters. So it's just generally very pretty and nice to look at. Will Herondale. So I have that. Next, I have the Polish version of the first book of City of Bones. My goal with Polish is to one day be able to read this. Will I ever get there? Probably in like 20 years. But yeah, there's the Polish version. Next, I have these 2. These are second-hand copies of City of Glass and City of Heavenly Fire. I have these because I've been making kind of like a wall collage of my favorite parts of the Shadowhunter books, because they really are my favorite books. So I've been putting together a collage, like I'm tea staining the pages. Well, first of all, I'm ripping the pages out of these books, tea staining them, and then putting them all together and making just pretty collages. So I bought secondhand copies so that I could destroy them, basically. They were only like €2 because secondhand. Next, we have the first Infernal Devices book in French, because that is something else I want to do. I want to get through reading this. You can see I've translated some stuff there. I also have the first Mortal Instrument book, By My Bed, in French. Also for the same reason, I want to get good enough at French that I can read these. The French is going much better than the Polish. The Polish is kind of like, that'll be done someday, whereas the French, I can reasonably read these pretty much all right because I know the source material so well. So it's really not that difficult to read these in French. So that's one of my goals in just life, is to read these in French. Next, here we have 2 more copies of Chain of Thorns. Yes, 2 more. So my boyfriend and I went to a Cassandra Clare event, like a speaking event, and there wasn't a way to get a ticket without a book because the tickets were quite expensive, and they were like, oh, well, you get a free book with it. And at that stage I was like, please God, no, I don't need another one. But like, they are quite pretty, you know? So I can't be too mad about it. They also came with like a signed plate, you know, those little things where she signed like a sticker basically. I didn't stick it in the book because I didn't want to. and bookmarks, stuff like that. And then obviously I got to hear her speak, but one for me and my boyfriend. So in case you're counting, that's 4 copies of Chain of Thorns so far. And oh, psych, there is another copy of Chain of Thorns. I'll probably give this one away, this last one. This is the copy I actually read. You can see there's like scuffing and stuff because I had it in my bag because I was reading on the bus in work. Someone knocked on my door. Back to this. It is also, like, let me just say, collector's first edition, you know? And so like this, it's a good book. I have too many. Thank you, Cassandra Clare, for taking all of my money at all times. And so down here, I'll bring this up. I have a little Cordelia Carstairs plush. Super, super cute. I got that in one of the book boxes where I got all of my copies. And then I have this. So, oh, it's heavy. This is the Lit Joy special edition of the Mortal Instruments books, right? Let me show you. For example, it has all 6 in beautiful hardbacks here. I just grabbed one of them. This is City of Glass. City of Glass. Right, that's the front. These edges. Okay, and a gorgeous little on the back. Then inside, that's supposed to be Alicante from Mortal Instruments. Then inside, it's obviously the book, right? But there are little annotations from Cassandra Clare. Obviously not handwritten because she's not insane. She's not annotating like 1,000 books. But they're printed on each of the books with little behind the scenes information. Like here, let me show. See, so how gorgeous. That was what really did it for me. I was like, I need this. I need to know her inner thoughts as she was writing these. There's also little illustrations inside the books. Exclusive illustrations. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful books. And yeah, it has all 6 of them. So these are like my pride and joy. I love them. They are gorgeous. So I bought them and I have them at the very bottom of my Cassandra Clare shelf bookcase. Oh, but yeah, they're so heavy. I'm trying to think how many pages would be in there. 3, 6, 10, 13, 16. So I'd say about 2,100 pages, I'd say, at least, with hardbacks in there. Gosh. So, in you go, Cordelia. And then last, kind of secretly hidden away here, is also Cassandra Clare. It is All the Stories Are True. Classics reimagined in the world of shadow hunters. So obviously it's written by Cassandra Clare, but then it is illustrated by Cassandra Jean, who is one of the illustrators who does really cool artwork. So here, for example, I have a little introduction, but here we have Cinderella reimagined as, I think, Tessa and Will. The young shapeshifter could tell that the handsome prince was hiding something. She knew better than anyone. The stories we tell about ourselves aren't always true. And then we have a gorgeous illustration of Will and Tessa as Prince Charming and Cinderella. And so pretty much has all the book couples as these reimagined fairy tales, or just these beautiful drawings. So also very special to me. And goes in here, my Cassandra Clare. This isn't all my Cassandra Clare. I will say this about my books in general. I have a lot of books at home with my parents. Years ago when I was in college and had less space, I kind of brought all my books home so that I had more space to buy new books and put my new books in places wherever. So that's where the rest of my Cassandra Clare books are. These are just the ones I've acquired in the last few years. So yeah, this is my Cassandra Clare shelf. Let's move back to the big bookshelf and have a look at the rest of my books. So I have angled you kind of upwards so that I can get the top shelf in. Let's get into the full shelf. First, we have Heartstopper, which is my only graphic novel. Here's the thing about graphic novels. They are expensive, okay? I read Heartstopper, the first Heartstopper, in an hour. It cost €14. So that was €14 for 1 hour of reading. That is not economical. So I really don't know what I'm gonna do about the rest, because I think there are 5 volumes. So that means I would pay €70 just to read for 5 hours. Hello? So that's why I haven't continued Heartstopper. I want to, but I'll see. Now, next I have YA teen. So again, I don't really know the difference between teen and YA. I just kind of call everything YA. So I'm going to define YA when I use the word. YA when I use the word means kinda ages, say 13, 14 up until about 18. That's YA to me. It's in that younger range. It's kind of teenage. So just keep that in mind as I go through these. So up here I have YA. So the first two are Aristotle and Dante, the first and second book. If you've seen my What I Got for Christmas, books I got for Christmas, this is a familiar book to you. It's the second one. So here's my Aristotle and Dante. Really like this series. Really like this series. Can recommend. Next we have Hollyborn, or at least the Hollyborn books I have here. Let's keep track of the books on my bookshelf that I have not read, because I'm curious. I'm sure you're curious too. So we have And a Happy New Year, How Hard Can Love Be, and You Could Be So Pretty. I've not read any of them. All 3 of them. Any Hollyborn books I've read, I've brought home. These 2 are the same characters. These 2 they are feminist YA fiction. There's some subgenres for you, and they're really fun. I love them. And then You Could Be So Pretty is on my list to read this year. And we'll see. We'll see if I get around, when I get around to it. Okay, next we have The Summer I Turned Pretty. Again, my opinions on this series have been kind of clear on this channel. TLDR, I don't like it. I'm not going to continue this series. So that's YA, right? Just plain YA or YA romance, I suppose. Next is YA fantasy. So it turns out I have a lot of YA fantasy. That's what I learned through this process. First we have Lightlark. So this blew up online. I think it was originally self-published. Call me wrong. I think I might be, but I'm going to spread misinformation and assume it was self-published. And then it blew up, and here it is. This is it without its dust jacket. I believe it is a series. I think there's going to be more. The premise is something about kind of trials. It gave Hunger Games, as most YA fantasy does to me. Welcome to the Centennial. Every 100 years, the island of Lightlark appears for only 100 days to host a deadly game. Now I've piqued your curiosity. Maybe you'll read it. I haven't. Oh, also I have not read it. Another one. Next is Siege and Storm. Haven't read it yet. This is the second book in that series, and I've not read it yet. Again, this is on my 24 for 2024 because look how crusty, dusty and musty it is. It's old. I've had this since 2020. Next, finally, something I have read. Here, this, I'll just take the first one, is the Cruel Prince series. Beautiful. It is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is the first one and it's small sized. I read them right as the second one came out. And the reason I picked these up, it wasn't because of the internet for once. It was because Holly Black, who I am now like loyal to, went on tour with Cassandra Clare. And I felt bad going to see both of them when I had only read Cassandra Clare books. So I bought the first one and the second one and gave them a read. And then I was shook and I loved them. And then they blew up online, obviously, because they are really good. But because I went to go see her, boom, signed. And so is this one. Boom. Unfortunately, the third one is not, because she was on tour for this book rather than that book. It was before the last book was even written. So I never got to get the last one signed. Maybe someday. If she goes on tour for her next book, coming out this year, I think, I will definitely go see her and be like, Queen of Nothing, sign, please. Next is The Stolen Heir, which is the newest Holly Black book. I bought this because, as you can probably read there, it is a signed first edition. I was like, oh my gosh, it's perfect to go with my signed collection of Holly Black books. So I will read this year. I sincerely think this will be read this year. Next we have The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The movie came out earlier 2023. So good. So good. Really love this. I think it was a 5-star. I loved The Hunger Games, so it's not really a shock that I loved the prequel. Next we have the Legendborn series. I've mentioned this a good few times as well. It's Legendborn and Bloodmarked. Really loved Legendborn. So I never actually finished Bloodmarked. So it is on my list this year also to finish. Next we have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Gerber. This is brand new. Like, to me, it was a gift. Therefore, I've not touched it. Excited to try that. Powerless. So, spoiler. This is the first book I read in 2024. I finished it earlier this year. So watch out for my review. Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it. So guess, did I like it? Did I not? It's romantasy, but still YA, very much YA. Next we have the first two in the Scythe series. We have Scythe and Thunderhead. I really liked Scythe and I got Thunderhead for Christmas, so it's not been touched yet. Next we have Fated. So years ago I read the Slated series by Terry, I believe. So good. I absolutely demolished that series and it really was years ago. I think I was 18 maybe. So good, so good. I stand by them. Fated is some kind of prequel book. I bought it a while ago. I'm on the fence about whether or not I actually want to read it. I enjoyed the series, the 3 of them, but I suppose I'll see. Maybe I will give that one away. I don't know. We'll see. Next is The Atlas 6. This is obviously fantasy. We're still in the fantasy section and there's magic. I don't really know much. I just know that I was very intrigued. I believe there's a second one and I think there's going to be a third one this year. So maybe I'll get to it. But yeah, I've not read it yet. This is just kind of embarrassing, showcasing how much I've bought but not read. So this is my official call out video, I suppose. Next we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. Again, I have mentioned this. I started it, but I wasn't in the mood. That's basically the only reason. I am on page 74. I'll get there. Like, this will be read this year. I will 100% finish this year. So watch out for Babel. Finish the first shelf, so let's kind of bring you down slightly. So here we have the next shelf, and this is pretty much all still fantasy. Here, so we'll start here, is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. Have I read it? No, I've not read this yet. However, it sounds like exactly the kind of book I'll enjoy. It's a magic school. There are 2 ways out: you graduate or you die. Exciting. It's on my list for this year, she said again. Okay, now we're entering into a bulk here of books I have read. So I'm about to win you back. These are my Sarah J Maas books. The thing about the Throne of Glass series, which is the first series that I would recommend reading, it is the more YA fantasy, is where it starts. It ends kind of adulty. So caution yourself there, I suppose. The first, I think 4 I read were my brother's. But then I got sick and tired of waiting to borrow them off him, so I bought the second half of the series as I was reading them. I think I also bought them secondhand. You can get them really cheap secondhand, just FYI. So we've Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, Kingdom of Ash. These are the 4 last Throne of Glass books. Next we have ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, A Court of Frost and Starlight, A Court of Silver Flames. They blew up online. They are massive online and I really loved them. I read them last year and they just like blew my mind. I love, love, love ACOTAR. Then next, kind of moving this side, other side of my face, we have the Crescent City books, which are also her other adult fantasy. It is House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath. As of right now, there are 6 days until the newest one. I think House of, I always mess this up. House of Shadow and, yeah, no, don't know, lost it. Flame and Shadow. Flame and Shadow. See how similar? Anyway, so I'm super duper excited. And just also another spoiler alert, I'm going to be doing a read with me for the final Crescent City book, the House of Flame and Shadow. So look forward to that. I'm looking forward to doing that. Super excited. So those are all my Sarah J Maas books. How many of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So obviously right here soon there will be a new Crescent City book. Next we have The Priory of the Orange Tree. Once again, this is brand new. Like, that's brand new to me. I got it for Christmas, so don't know when I'll get to that. Next we have A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Also got that one for Christmas, so again, I don't know when I will get to that. Next we have one I also have not read again. We're back into ones I've not read. Fourth Wing. This massive online, and you know the real tea, this technically is not my one, this is my boyfriend's. He loved Fourth Wing. So I am super excited for it because it's over romantasy and that is not his vibe usually. So Fourth Wing. Next, I also have Iron Flame, which is the second book to Fourth Wing. So obviously I've also not read this one. And again, this is technically his book, but I will read them and it goes with the fantasy vibe, so I put it up here. Next we have romance. And I think romance actually is the genre book I had the most of. So let's see, I snuck one romance into the fantasy shelf, it fit, and that is You Again. This is also on my to read. I'm on page 23. I started it and I can't remember why I stopped. I think it was because I had something else to read. I don't know, I actually can't remember. But that's my first romance book. Okay, so let's take you down another level. Okay, once again we have you at a kind of weird level so that I can get this beautiful shelf in. I'm gonna take that off. Here we have Icebreaker. So I think most people know what this is. It is a hockey romance. Beside it, I also have Wildfire. Haven't read Wildfire. This is like kind of the second one. The third one is also gonna come out. So hopefully we'll have another pink addition to this corner over here. Next is Magnolia Parks, which I got for Christmas. I'm kind of counting books I got for Christmas as not my fault I haven't read them because they're brand new. That's not my fault. Next we have Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Loved this book, really loved this book. I love it, Ali Hazelwood. I love STEM. I'm a STEM girly, so I really enjoy all of her romance books. Beside it is Loathe to Love You, which is kind of like her novella-ish series, mini-series. It's 3 little books. They're very short, so I think she could have probably done more with them, but whatever. Next we have my Emily Henry collection. This is Book Lovers. This was the first Emily Henry book I ever read and I loved it. Nora and Charlie are super cute. Nora is a literary agent and Charlie is an editor. So this was really good. I really enjoyed this, especially as a book lover myself. Next, I have Beach Read. I read this earlier last year and I really liked it. Again, I feel like Emily Henry doesn't really miss. Good one. And then You and Me on Vacation, I have not read. And she's releasing another one this year. Next I have Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I had this on my TBR for ages. I still have it on my TBR. Are we surprised? It's kind of, it seems like a bucket list kind of book. So I'm excited. I believe there are more in this series. And I think following, is it the Brown sisters? I know there's Eve Brown as well. So don't quote me, but another nice little romance. We have the Twisted series, or at least 3 of them. 2 of them I have read, and the 3rd I have not, because I got it for Christmas. So before you start judging, that again is not my fault. I've not finished it. There will eventually be the 4th one, but I don't want to pre-buy them. I like to read them and then buy them. It's like a treat for finishing it. Next, we have very similar is Elle Kennedy, The Deal, The Mistake, The Score. These are the off-campus series and they are hockey romance. You can kind of get the vibe just by looking. They're like the original hockey romance. Like that's where it began. For me anyway. So I really liked The Deal. The Mistake wasn't that good. And then we have The Score that I've not read yet. No excuse. Just that I thought the second one wasn't great, so I don't know how good the 3rd one's going to be. Next we have Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. Don't know. I've not read it. Are we surprised? No. Switch sides again. Next we have With Love from Cold War. This is one I want to read this year. It might come at the end of the year. I don't know. It seems like Christmassy to me, but I could be wrong. Next is the 3rd Bridgerton book. So I have read the 1st and 2nd, obviously. They're at my parents' home. Again, saving space. I will probably read all the Bridgertons just to see what happens. I like to read them before I watch the TV show, so I actually need to get a move on the 4th. I have read the 3rd. I need to get the 4th and read it before the next season, because in case you don't know, the 3rd season of the TV series is based on the 4th book rather than the 3rd book. So I better go. I better get that read. That's the end of just pure romance. From here on, these are kind of contemporary, but let me also warn you that we kind of get a bit all over the place with genres from here on, because romance and fantasy are my big ones. So let's go. First we have my Hollyborn books. Girlfriends, here, also signed by the way, is a really good contemporary book. Highly recommend. My next Hollyborn is How Do You Like Me Now? I've not read it. It's on my list for this year, she says again. Next we have A Clockwork Orange. This is kind of a classic-y cult following kind of book. I really want to read it. I'm just not. It's supposed to be a kind of difficult read is the only thing that's putting me off. We'll see. Next, I have The Virgin Suicides. I think you can kind of guess what that's about. It's another one of these kind of contemporary classics. It wasn't great. I think I gave it 3 stars. Look it up if you're curious about that. It's based on a song, I think, the name. So yeah, give that a look if it sounds intriguing. I just wasn't a fan. Lessons in Chemistry is next. Once again, wasn't a massive fan. Like, it's good, wasn't a massive fan. The Princess Bride, massive classic, and look at this edition. She is gorgeous. So that's why I wanted it, because of how pretty that is. Here we have some Taylor Jenkins Reid, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Great book. Again, it was kind of everywhere. Everyone knows about The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I'm not discovering it. Like, it's very much a very popular book. Good book. Malibu Rising is one I haven't read. It's also that historical, is it historical? August 1983, yeah, it's that kind of historical romance, contemporary, whatever you want to call it. That should be good. I think Taylor Jenkins Reid is pretty good at writing like historical fiction in a way that makes, like, gaslights you into thinking that it actually happened, that she's writing just non-fiction. And so it's really good. Let's move you down a shelf. So this is my last official shelf. These shelves down here are my boyfriend's. So I'm not going to show off his books because I've definitely not read them, and I probably won't. He likes just fantasy. He doesn't even like romantasy that much. So yeah, I'll leave them. Whereas my last shelf, first we have Daisy Jones and the Six. Once again, historical romance fiction written by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Also recommended. If you liked The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, you'll like Daisy Jones. It's just how it goes. Next we have Before the Coffee Gets Cold and Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Tales from the Cafe. Gorgeous, gorgeous books. I bought them because of how pretty they are. There's more, so I will hopefully, I will hopefully enjoy them and buy the rest of them. Next we have Hamnet, which is a Hamlet retelling. No, I've not read it. No further questions, Your Honor. Here I have The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I've not read it. Hint. Say nothing. Next is Sally Rooney, Normal People. This is the only Sally Rooney book I have and have read, but I really enjoyed it. And I said this in another video, but I was really shocked how much I loved it. So she stays on the shelf. Next we have Electra. I bought this straight off the back of reading, I think, like 3 Greek mythology retellings. I want to know more about Electra. I really like Greek mythology. Shout out Percy Jackson. So I like to read even the fiction contemporary versions. My camera died, so let's get back into it. Right, so tomorrow is on my TBR. But again, it is brand new, so not my fault. Next, we have my very small collection of thriller, quote unquote. First, we have Gone Girl. I want to read this. I've seen the movie and I really enjoyed the movie-ish. So I want to know what else, because it's a long enough book. So I want to see what else happens. Next, we have Verity by Colleen Hoover. I wanted to see how good or bad Colleen Hoover was. My opinion, I suppose, on Colleen Hoover is that she's a good enough writer for people who don't read a lot. Like people who didn't enjoy reading as kids, I think will really like Colleen Hoover's writing. It's not challenging, it's easy to read, and it's quick. But on the other side of things, I don't think it's fantastic. I don't think she handles things that well, and I think it's trauma for the sake of trauma, a lot of her books, rather than actually good or like a message. Like, I'm sure she's trying to have a message, but it always feels gratuitous, rather than educational, I suppose. So I wanted to read Verity. Like, I think, I gave it 3 or 4. I was spooked at the time. As time has gone on, I'd like probably demote it back down to like a 3, 3.5. I don't have much to compare it to. I just know, I don't think Colleen Hoover's that great, but that's just my opinion. Next, we have Hidden Bodies, which is the second book in the You series, the same series from Netflix. Okay. Next, I have a very small collection of classic books. So here I have Pride and Prejudice, this really nice copy of Pride and Prejudice. This is one of my favorite books, and this is just a beautiful edition I found. I liked the illustrations, the little peacocks. Yeah, I really like that. Then we have Great Expectations. So I read this last year and I really enjoyed this as well. I read the odd classic. I like to see why they're classic. I like to check it out. I don't always like them, but I like to give them a go, and yeah, I quite liked Great Expectations. Here I have William Shakespeare, A Midsummer Night's Dream. Again, I like the odd Shakespeare play. I studied King Lear, so I wanted to grab another one. Yeah, but I'm in no hurry to read it. It's just kind of here. Next, I have The Age of Innocence. I want to read this. I have not yet. But again, I'll get to it. With classics, I don't put pressure on myself. Like, I'm not gonna really count this as on my TBR because it's in like distant future. I do want to read it and I'll keep it, but I'm not pressuring myself to read it because reading is supposed to be fun. It's a hobby and not a job. So I don't want to force myself to read something that I'm not in the mood for. So I'll wait for potentially a few years until I feel like I want to actually read this. That's my classics there. And then next I have some Percy Jackson books. I don't have them all. These, I have the 3rd, 4th and 5th. These are the copies that I read, like the original copies that I kind of read as a kid. So these are special to me because they're these lovely old copies. And you can see there's a bit of variation in size. That's just the way I could get them. I also have the newest Percy Jackson book, Chalice of the Gods. So I have this with my tabs and everything in there with the Percy Jackson group. I will be getting the newest Percy Jackson this September and it'll obviously go right there. So that's all I have from the Percy Jackson series on my bookshelf. The rest are at home at my parents' house. And kind of last of all is Girlhood by Melissa Febos. So this is non-fiction and it is actually the only really non-fiction book I have on my bookshelf. I read it this month. I'm going to save my review for a recap video later in the month, so look out for that and you'll see my opinion then. Here is kind of miscellaneous. I have a mindfulness puzzle book I got years ago. It's just puzzles. I really like crosswords, so I have a few crosswords done there. It's some puzzles. And then I have my math books. I love maths. So I have these little stats and maths books. They're just like 60 seconds intro books. They're not really like, again, these aren't on my TBR, like I know this stuff. It's just I like to have little maths books. So that's really all of my books. Here on my shelf is what I call my TBR jar, okay? When I buy a new book, I write down the name on a piece of paper. For example, this is Malibu Rising, and I put it in a jar. Then I pick out one of my TBR books. I'll probably have to add to it now that I have some new books from Christmas, but that's kind of more for when I'm stuck, like I don't know what I want to read. The jar of knowledge, basically, is what I use. So, and then the spare piece of paper to add to my jar. So that is my bookshelf. Thank you for watching. What I have learned through this experience is that I have so much room for more books. You see that gap? Also, there is enough space to double stack these books. Like, I could definitely double stack. So I don't have as much of a problem as I thought I do. I definitely have room for more books. And I will be buying more books. So thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.